learning, it has to come from a place of humility. Kahit marami ka nang natutunan at marami ka nang experience, the learning should never stop because you get to offer different things.
Welcome to K-Talks. I'm Dr. Jerry Cleachco, the Dean of the School of Media and Marketing at the University of Asia and the Pacific. Our guest for today is an actress, a host, and an entrepreneur, but most importantly, a mother of three. Let's get to know her more. Please welcome Dimples Romana.
Hello,
Hi, Dimples.
Dr.
Good
K.
morning.
Dean,
Thank
I'm so excited today.
Thank you for making time to join us here in K-Talks in the series for media and entertainment.
It's an amazing thing that you guys are doing, really. I have to commend you because for this era of my life, this is the third time I'm being interviewed by a huge K. We had Miss Karina and then Miss Karen, and then you, Dr. K.
Wow.
Ang mga level natin, ha? I'm so proud. Sabi ko talaga, I always try to take the opportunity of being able to share my story because I just know that there's value in it.
So let's begin with that. Could you tell us your story? Why did you get into show business and how did it all start?
So I was 12 years old. It
Wow.
was back in 1997. My sister who had leukemia had passed on, no? She had leukemia for about 4 years. And of course, our family understandably was going through a rough time.
Okay.
I was discovered in a mall by my former manager. Her name was Vera Esberto. She was also the manager of Jal Mapa at the time.
Okay.
No, si Squid Jal Mapa and Donna Cruz was doing their love team. Mga unang love team sila, Dr. K.
Okay.
Tapos, she asked me if she can bring me to Mr. M. Mr. M is, so Dr. K, Mr. M is of course the father, the founder of Star Magic now.
Oh, okay.
Used to be known as ABS-CBN Talent Center.
Right.
So he took a look at me along with other artists as well. I was brought to the office and he had said, okay, marunong ka ba sumayaw? And I said, natututunan po. Marunong ka bang kumanta? Pwede ko pong matutunan. And then, of course, because we were going through a rough time when I was asked to do a drama scene, I was able to deliver it only because of circumstances as well. It was easier for me to go through it. So he had put me in a teleserie called Esperanza of Ate Julian Santos. I was the contrabida. At the time, I was 12 years old, but I was playing a role of a 22-year-old. No?
Wow.
So even in the earlier days of my life, I was, raised to be more adaptable. Like I am always, that part of my life really made sure that I was always curious about things. I'm always, I'd like to think I'm a student of life. I never want to stop learning. And so I feel that even throughout my career, of course that's 27 years, no? Lagi lang akong nag-aaral because feeling ko, I grew up in an environment, in the media and entertainment environment where everything is ever evolving. Today you're new, tomorrow you're not new.
Right.
Today you're the best, tomorrow you're not really the best. And I have acknowledged that there's also power in acknowledging that you won't always be at your best.
Right.
But you can always try to be your best. And in the waiting periods of my career, I had learned to always study, ask questions, learn from the older ones, learn from the veterans, but also about the craft. And sometimes not even so. For example, us creators were storytellers. So I have an innate trait in me where I'm always interested in people. And so I like networking, I like talking to people, getting to know them because I feel like at some point in my life, everything that I learned from that person, whether it was education, whether it was a 5-minute conversation, I put it in my toolbox and I'm able to use that at some point in my career. So I have done several contrabida roles, character acting roles, not always the bida, not always a contrabida, sometimes a second support. And then over time, I have learned that that's not the only thing I can be.
Okay. What was your biggest break? Is there such a thing?
Well,
The biggest role you've ever taken? in
okay,
your
so the
acting
very
career?
first one was I Feel Tabing Ilog, no? I had to pitch in for Ate Mylene Dizon, who was their main kontrabida at that time.
Is this a series?
This is a
TV?
series,
Or-
yes, Tabing Ilog. And it was with several co-actors of mine. I did that for 2 years. And then I did Mara Clara, the remake with Catherine and Julia Montes. And then I also, after that, have done other projects like Kadenang Ginto, which happened, I think, mga 2020, 22nd year of my career, and really somehow pushed me to a direction which was not entirely something that I had imagined for myself. But I realized that in life, you know, it has a way of surprising you.
Yeah.
So sometimes, even when the shoe doesn't fit just yet, you have to make sure that you fit that shoe. So I have tried to learn different kinds of things for that particular role.
Yeah.
Enrolled myself in a dance class even because I thought when I was watching myself on TV, and I like to do that, I like to be critical with myself and really assess like on a third person perspective na, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? What should I take away from this? And so, dahil natutunan ko yun, Dr. K, it was not hard for me to accept failures and defeats and momentary waiting time because I always treat my waiting time as a nourishing time. A time where I should be learning other things.
Waiting meaning no projects.
Yes, of course. Because hindi naman porket artista ka, sa 30 years, lagi kang may proyekto.
Right. So a lot of this, I suppose you went through training as well.
A lot of training.
Yeah.
So we would do jazz lessons, and
I
my
see.
professor then, or teacher then, was Teacher Jercel, now of G-Force. No, she used to teach jazz, and her background was ballet. And so when you have professors or teachers like Teacher Jercel, you realize that you don't have to be in a box all the time, no? And what adds flavor to a personality or storytellers like myself is that the different kinds of things that you can learn outside of what we do.
Yes.
No, ang nangyayari kasi usually is that when you are a doctor, dati we're not so keen into learning other things. Now, even doctors dance, even doctors do TikToks, and there's value in that because then you make yourself different and unique from other people. There's a different offering.
Yes.
So I had to do that. I also, at some point, si Tito Boy Abunda handpicked some of us to take hosting lessons. And this came about, the progression came about from my 10th year as a teleserye actress. Sabi, Dimples, you're part of the class that Tito Boy wants to pioneer for his hosting class. And I said, yeah, of course. I didn't know how to host. I could speak, but not as much.
Yes.
But then that empowered the education and the learning I got from that class, empowered me to become somebody that I never thought I'd be. So parang na-realize ko, you become more empowered the more you work on yourself, the more you teach yourself, and you know, learning, it has to come from a place of humility.
Yeah.
And say that even when you have been an industry worker, an industry partner in the entertainment and media industry, kahit marami ka nang natutunan at marami ka nang experience, you know, the learning should never stop because then you get to offer different things.
Right. So from acting, as you already mentioned, from acting you did hosting.
Yes.
And as I understand, now you're also an entrepreneur.
That's right.
So could you tell us about this? Is this a natural progression that happens to... Oh, by the way, before this, did you ever get into film?
I did. Okay, so I have done plenty of films. I've done classic ones like One More Chance, Second Chance. I also did the Luwalhati Bautista Dekada 70 with Tita Vilma Santos. So I did plenty of films just because the way I did with my career is that if I'm not doing television, then I move to film. If I'm not doing film, there's no chance that I'm going to do a show now or a film now. I move into hosting. So I started hosting parties for my brands, and before I was not I was not really seen as a brand endorser just yet until they saw me how to host. They saw that there's si Dimples can also, while we were growing our family, that's when they also thought, okay, her life is a reflection of what she does and what she uses, the products, the services she trusts. And over time, as I built the credibility and the trust, it's not really, it's not intentional really. It's really more that my family was growing. And in the same way that I was trying to further my knowledge in terms of my acting career, my hosting career. And so the brands came about. Now Dr. K, now I endorse Maginasal, Generica Drugstore, which is of course of Ayala's. CDO, Mega, these are huge Philippine, but also Unilever for Ladies' Choice. And so all these things came about nang very naturally because I was always very keen into learning how I can grow what I have. Because I didn't necessarily have everything. But since I'm a grower and I know how to nurture things, I can grow one small seed into something that is huge. No, so that's like the theme of my life so far.
So on that point, so as I said, so today you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So is this like one of the natural progressions of artists?
Not necessarily. So when you have been working on something for a very long while, like mine, I've been in the business almost 3 decades. Sometimes it's either you feel like you're so huge already, you don't want to be working with people who are new. I've seen it. And it's so sad because when you think about it, pagka malaking tao ka na in any kind of industry, you feel like you already know everything. But in truth, some of the best mentors and the most talagang humongous tycoons in business and in the media industry, kahit si Tita Velma Santos. She's a perfect epitome of somebody I want to be like because she's been in the business for a very long time. She's the star for all seasons. And yet when you meet her, there's a certain warmth to her, a certain vulnerability about her that she is always very, very open into saying na, anak, paano mo nga ito ginagawa? Or ano na ba ang relevant ngayon? Because in the media and entertainment industry, it's ever evolving. Today's knowledge will not necessarily be applicable to tomorrow. So it's always very good to have a melange of knowledge from the newer generation, the younger generation, but also the systems and the structure of the veterans. No? So just to have that melange of knowledge really excites me the most.
Well, again, that's a good transition to the third one. I know that education is important to you.
Very much.
And how do you think we, as an academic institution, like we have the School of Media and Marketing, right? How could we be of help? How could we collaborate? How could we help you or help artists in their desire to continue their education?
Dr. K, this is a fantastic question because in light of what's happening now in our generation, most of us get stuck. We feel like either we don't deserve to be in school because we might not be just as dynamic or as energetic as the younger generation, or pwede rin that there's pride na parang alam ko na itong gawin. I've been in the media industry, entertainment industry for decades. I know this already. Why do I have to go to school? But in that sense, I always like to disagree very strongly because feeling ko talaga the way you can survive and be able to create a legacy of your own in this industry is for you to always keep learning. You have to know the structure. You have to know the dynamics. How do you do a film? How do you be in the media industry? What kind of rules do we have to apply? Because the only way for you to break and create new rules are really to know and talagang kahit nakapikit ka, alam mo na yung mga pwede mong gawin, no? And that gives you more power to create as a storyteller. Because in the media entertainment industry, whether it is marketing, whether you're on the end of the brand, the client, the agency, or the endorser, it's quite crucial for you to understand that these are all different kinds of lines that you have to understand from their perspective, from my perspective. The selling point is different. You will sell differently the product if you're coming from a standpoint of an endorser. You're selling it from a standpoint. So coming from the education question, I I went to a public school when I was in grades 1 to 6.
Yeah.
Even while I was starting as a teleserye actress back then, I really pushed to be in a homeschool environment, this was in Pasig also, Repsi, I think Sina Ann also went there. So I would go to school once, twice a week. I would do all the modules. It was module heavy, but I would do it. All our examinations and defenses were all right in front of our professor. We would go. And so I had finished that in time. So I finished my high school in that school. And then eventually I went into UST, but life happens, no?
Yes.
And then I went into Enduran colleges, and then life happened again. And I guess parang this is quite reminiscent for most of us, breadwinners, because something is always more important than the education, apparently. But you reach a point where you want to say, I think it's time for me to take this step for myself, no? Because if you're running on fumes alone, you won't be able to survive another 10, 20 years in this industry. You have to equip yourself with the right education, hearing it from the people like yourself, Dr. K and the Academe of UA&P, because you guys have been doing this for quite a while, and you've already given birth for some of the most amazing brand marketing people I know, and these are friends of mine, colleagues of mine, people I work for and work with. And so for you to be able to offer something that will be workable for people like me who still want to learn, who still want to create more with being equipped with a proper education, I think it's a fantastic idea. We need people like you to give us something that we can work with and work on to be able to empower us more in creating better stories for our brands, for our personal and professional brands. But also, it gives us a bigger voice, I guess. A bigger voice in terms of creating better content for our platforms. Over time, when you're in the industry for almost 3 decades, you gather sort of a network of yourself. So you have it on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all these people who follow you. But for me, what do you offer to them, whether it is inspiration or practical tips, if you are not continuously learning on your own? No, you will reach a point where everything will plateau.
That's true.
That's true. And so I want to be able to make sure, and ako talaga, I'm so keen into doing the program with you because I want to learn from the best. I want to be able to understand what I do for a living. Because mine, I was put in this position circumstantially. So life brought me into this direction, but when you are brought into a direction where you are unfamiliar, and even up until this point, even if I have been doing this for 3 decades already, I feel so unfamiliar with it because it's a huge monster that you have to take on every day. It changes, like the flavor of the people now are different from before. So just to be able to equip myself better.
Right. Well, I guess the challenge is always, especially when you're in the middle of projects, the challenge should always be how to make it work, right? In terms of schedules and all that. But also, I think, having people from the industry get into our programs, it's not just really a one-way thing. This is actually going to be beneficial for both. Because we can give you, we have a number of people teaching with us also who are from industry. But I guess it's not just you learning from us, but we learning from you because you have the practical know-how and the actual experience, out there. So wow, great. I'm sure people who are watching this, especially young, aspiring, perhaps some of our students or graduates who want to get into the industry. Hopefully, things you've shared this morning will be some source of inspiration for them.
I pray,
And so thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. K. That's beautiful. That's lovely.
And thank you for watching, and we'll watch out for what's coming up next. And maybe Dimples will be in our program here at UA&P. Thank you very much. Bye for now.